I'm honest, right now we're kind of in a weird spot within World War II and these sorts of videos that we're doing with this, because we talked a lot about my best class setups and everything like that at the very beginning of the game when the game first initially launched, and that's something that is all well and dandy, of course, that we have an influx of people trying out the game for the very first time. They want to know what works best for them, and we're kind of now we're that point where everybody has a little feel on what they enjoy, but then we also have Christmas coming up in a week in which there's bound to be a large number of players jumping into the game for the first time at that point. So it's kind of that, once again, weird situation where we're in between. So I figured, you know what, let's just do it anyway. Let's talk a little bit about a class setup that I would definitely love to recommend to you guys, and it might be something that kickstarts, once again, a few more class setup videos here coming in the next few days to weeks leading up until the next couple of months, and maybe who knows, if they help out enough, we can continue doing them later on, even further into the year. But nonetheless, it is something in which I want to give you guys one that I've been using a lot recently, that being the STG-44, one of the classic weapons within Call of Duty, the franchise as a whole, and of course within World War II as well. It's a powerhouse if you use it right, and in terms of maybe it being overused, I don't think it's as used as, say, the BAR or maybe the FG-42, but it is still a weapon that probably isn't necessarily underrated. So whereas we talked about previously a couple of weapons that you might not necessarily think about using, the STG-44 might still be in that forefront of your mind of weapons and loadouts for going into your everyday matches. But I want to give you guys my setup in which I think you can absolutely shred with, and one that hopefully it helps you guys out in turn. So of course, if you guys end up using this at all and you guys want to share your results with me, I always love to see your feedback on these sorts of classes that I do end up recommending to you guys. If you guys want to tweet me a picture of your results or something like that, or let me know in the comments, feel free to. But that said, let's jump into the class setup itself, because we're going to start out with some of the basics of what I pretty much always run with some of these class setups. The first thing being, for the STG-44, the infantry division, I'm not going to necessarily say to go out of your way to rank up a different division or anything like that, or anything outside of the normal classification that you'd really see rifles in within World War II, and that's because I think infantry for the rifle play does it perfectly in terms of tailoring it, or I guess I should say is a best fit for rifles, because of course each individual division offers their own unique attributes that of course can help out greatly, but I think that infantry just can't go wrong with rifle play. But that said, as per the other class setups that we've talked about, I definitely recommend trying to rank up the division that you use to the fullest if possible, to the point where either you're about the prestige or maybe you're max prestige on that division already, simply because if you are rank 4 in infantry, all of the perks of that, being that it adds a stalker-like effect to the aiming down sight and movement, in which the STG-44 at its base has a very low aim down sight movement speed, so this helps out greatly. Then you also get the extra attachment slot, which who can go wrong with the extra attachment, and finally the extra magazines as well, simply because I plan on staying alive when I use this class setup. I end up trying to do my absolute best, so if I can have more ammo to last me longer, of course that is a beautiful thing also. But that said, the infantry division is definitely a nice choice here for this, but as for the weapon itself, we already talked about, it is the STG-44, but the one thing that you'll be noticing in this gameplay in the background is that it's actually not the base STG. I'm using the Haywire 2 variant within these gameplays, but of course it's not something that affects stats or anything like that. It simply only gives me a few extra benefits of maybe, say, in my opinion, one of the best looking variants within World War II, and it adds also that 15% bonus XP per kill. But when you strip it down to the base of it, if you don't have an STG variant to offer, once again, that little extra XP bonus that you end up getting per kill and for using the weapon, it's totally cool because this won't affect your stats or anything. You'll still be able to shred with it. But that said, I run 4 attachments, so that gives away the basic training that I end up using already, but we'll talk about a little bit more in just a bit here, but that being primed, so that we end up having 4 attachments coupled with the infantry division extra attachment slot as well. So I'm going to be running quick draw, grip, high caliber, and steady aim on this thing, and with reason for all of this. Once again, we talked about some of the mobility speed with the STG-44, and while quick draw doesn't necessarily help you aiming down sight or anything like that in the movement speed there, it does help you get that quick leg up in a gunfight, which is something that the STG-44, I'll admittedly say, is not one of the greatest when it comes to straight up speed. While it's not necessarily the biggest or clunkiest weapon in the game compared to, say, an MG or something, the base aim down sight time and the movement speed could of course be way better. So if I can get this to the point where I can have any any advantage over that base, I'm gonna take it. So quick draw allows me to reduce that aim down sight time and allow me to get my gun up and ready for these gunfights. And once again, coupled with the infantry stalker ability, that helps out greatly when going into just about any gunfight. Now grip of course helps out in the recoil department, and while the STG-44 statistically is not one of the worst weapons in terms of recoil, sometimes I feel like it's a little bit too much than it should have, which of course comes down to maybe just a general thought process on the weapon itself and not actually statistically across the board how it does perform. So of course I might not be a fan of the base weapon and its recoil, but you might not have as much a problem with it. That really is of course at that subjective point, but grip allows you to have once again just more greater control over that recoil. And when you end up going and using the STG at its strong suits at that mid-range to semi-long range, this is where it'll start to flourish. And of course, when you end up having those longer range kills, it will be something you'll notice that the kick gives you a little bit of an extra disadvantage in a gunfight if somebody is at a longer range. So having grip and reducing that to as little as possible is of course something that I'm all for. And of course, by some of the class setups you've probably seen on the channel already, I like to use on a lot of things. So to me personally, it is a little bit of a crutch attachment, but doesn't have to be if you feel comfortable with not using it. Now, while that last attachment might be something that you could swap out easily for something else you may feel is necessary, one thing that I definitely think you need to have on this class setup is high caliber. Now, for the rifle class setups that you've seen on the channel, once again, I always recommend this as well, but it's something that's there for a reason. It's constant on my class setups for a reason. That's because it is something that offers that extra headshot lethality, and in a gunfight, that is crucial. Having that extra maybe 50% damage per shot is insane. While it's not going to make every single kill a one-shot headshot or anything like that, something that we saw with the alpha build of the Shiva in Black Ops 3, that thing with high caliber was a one-shot to the head, or anything like the AK in CSGO. It's not going to be like that, but that extra damage that we end up getting from high caliber could be what determines if a kill takes one shot more, or if you can end up getting it as quick as possible, which in a gunfight, I'm sure that we all would rather take the quicker time to kill whenever it works out in our favor. Whereas, say, it wouldn't necessarily make it a one-shot to the head, what it could do is make it a one-shot chest shot and a one-shot to the head. So 2 shots in total, but because the damage multipliers and with high caliber adding that extra lethality, it makes it something that happens quicker. And if we end up taking into account flinch within World War II, which is a very real thing, this can also help out to play in your favor, where if you say start and your aim is on their chest, if you get shot at, chances are your aim is going to kick up a little bit, and therefore your aim will then target closer to the head, if not on the head, which could work out once again to the favor of giving you that 2-shot kill. Now, of course, this is all in theory, and not every time will this work out perfectly, but the idea and the ability to be able to have that extra chance, to have that extra damage for headshots, and to take one shot off an entire kill, that to me is definitely worth it, and I would absolutely recommend putting this on pretty much any rifle that you can end up using. So of course, that is one that I definitely think you need to try out. I would not change that out for anything, but that brings us then to the 4th and final attachment that I end up running. And this one is one that honestly I think is more so to make it an all-around better weapon in close quarters and range, because the STG of course flourishes in mid-range to maybe semi-mid-range towards that longer range, but we have these weapons like the FG, like the bar, that do well in close quarters and can sometimes outgun some regular SMGs. While the STG might not be one of the ones that is actively thought as being a close quarters weapon, it can be with that steady aim to reduce that hip fire spread, in which if you do get into a sticky situation, this can help you out incredibly, to the point where, while of course, yes, you'd still want to aim down sight to be more accurate, sometimes they might be right on top of you, to which it could be a lifesaver. But that rounds out the STG build that I would definitely recommend, and I think that can help you shred in the majority of game modes. Now, to round everything out, of course, we mentioned that we end up having primed, which gives you an extra attachment slot, to which made that build possible. Also, though, it does offer some flinch reduction, though it isn't all the greatest now with the nerfs that happen to it, but I still think that it's worth running and still offers a nice little secondary benefit to that additional attachment that is granted. And even if it's not as good, I still think, you know what, if it's coupled with it, why not? not. It's not like you're going to be losing any chance to reduce flinch by using this basic training over another basic training, so at the same point in time, while it might not reduce flinch as much, it still does and offers you what I primarily will use it for, that being that extra attachment slot. Now, to close everything out in terms of secondaries and then the lethal or tactical, I usually just run a frag grenade, and on some very rare occasions I'll have to pull out the secondary, but it's not often, so depending on what rank I am, I'll either have the machine pistol unlocked and equipped, or I'll end up using the 1911. So that one really all comes down to it, but of course the build is primarily around that STG, so I don't really use the secondary as much. I'll usually actually, even if I come close to running out of ammo, swap the secondary for a weapon I pick up off the ground, but just for the sake of continuity, it's there for you guys if you want to use that. But that said, that's going to round out this STG-44 build. Once again, it is something in which you could maybe fine-tune it how you feel fit, but I think this is a great base and something that can definitely help you out in the grand scheme of things in helping you slay out and just do an absolute fantastic job carrying your team, whatever it may be. But that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed, hopefully it helps you out. Once again, if you guys do want to share your thoughts and opinions on this, maybe tweet me your results, feel free to. Link is down there in the description below, but let me know your thoughts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below, and of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date with everything we have here regarding Call of Duty World War II, best class setups, tips, tricks, news, information, leaks, showcases, breakdowns, all that good stuff we got you covered here up on the channel, and we're on that road to 100,000 subscribers, so it really does help me out in getting to that goal. So if you guys want to stay up to date with any of that, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected to me outside of YouTube, but practically live on Twitter. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, asking me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. But all that said and out of the way, hope you guys had a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.